the people that are around.
Federal Justice Minister, let's listen in.
Obviously, Her Worship the Mayor of Toronto, Olivia Chow, and my partner in all things that relate to Parkdale High Park, which is Gord Perks, the longtime City Councilor for this area and a longtime housing advocate. Here in PHP, in Parkdale High Park, and across the country, people are struggling to meet one of their most basic needs, and that is the need for keeping a roof above their heads. That's an issue I hear about very, very often from my constituents, regardless of which corner, which sector of this community that they live in. Addressing those needs is part of the reason for which we launched a national housing strategy. And within that national housing strategy, what we heard repeatedly is that we need to build housing, we need to build it quickly. Thus came the idea about a rapid housing initiative, or the RHI, as we call it. The goal of that is to focus on the rapidity, to focus on the speed and getting things done quickly. That program has been one of our most popular and one of our most oversubscribed programs, to say the least. It has been expanded now not once, not twice, but 3 times. So we're literally dealing on the 3rd salvo of this initiative, with an additional $1.5 billion allocated just over the last 2 years. That's going to support a 3rd round of housing projects. It's going to yield 4,500 additional affordable homes for people who need them the most, including people who need such housing urgently. It's going to address the pressing need for housing supply, which those of you who were here with us yesterday in a different part of Toronto when I was with Her Worship and Minister Freeland, you heard Minister Freeland talk about supply, supply, supply. We need to boost that supply. What these funds will go to is projects that rapidly create permanent affordable homes for people in what we call severe housing need, those experiencing or at imminent risk of experiencing homelessness, something, again, I am all too familiar with as a representative of this community for over the last 8 years, going back to 2015. And I'll tell you quite candidly that when I was deciding to run for office, even the year before 2015, one of the things I was concerned about was the fact that I felt that the previous government at the federal level was not prioritizing certain people that are vulnerable, people that are marginalized, people that might be racialized, people that might be a religious minority, people that might be newcomers. I participate in 3 of those last categories, and I didn't see a government that reflected me, my needs, or the needs of other people that were situated similar to me. Investing in housing, particularly this kind of housing that we're talking about today, directly addresses the needs of those who are vulnerable. So I'm very pleased today to be announcing on behalf of the Government of Canada that we are investing $21.5 million right here on this site for expanded funding. And what that funding will do is help build new affordable homes, 40 such homes. And what's important is that you're going to say, well, homes for whom? Arif, like, who are we talking about right now? And I'll tell you who we're talking about. We're talking about units that really fulfill our human rights-based approach to the Rapid Housing Initiative. We're talking about people that are either homeless or at risk of homelessness. We're talking about vulnerable people, including women and children who are fleeing violence. We're talking about seniors, young adults, Indigenous people, persons with disabilities. We're talking about people experiencing mental health or addiction issues. We're talking about veterans, 2S LGBTQI+ individuals, racialized groups, and recent arrivals. This is on top of something that I stood with Gord a couple of years ago about, again here in Parkdale, when we announced a $14 million investment on Dunn Avenue, not very far from here, to build an additional 50 units. When I think about this announcement, when I think about that Dunn Street announcement, what I'm thinking about is that whom we are addressing and whose needs we are fulfilling. And these investments and their impact can't be overstated. And the reason I say that is something that I learned from a former colleague of Gord's, actually, a guy named Adam Vaughn, who used to constantly talk to me about this idea that housing is foundational. And the idea about a foundational right to housing is that when you house people properly, they start to being able to build community and contribute. When you house people properly, the foundation is built for better economic outcomes, better social outcomes, better educational outcomes, and less interactions with the criminal justice system. That's an evidence-based approach to housing, and we pride ourselves at the federal level as a Liberal government in enacting evidence-based policies. But it's not just about evidence, it's also about ethics and the values that inform the policies that we're seeking to implement. And the fundamental ethic behind an announcement like this, behind trying to house people and ensure that they achieve a safe and affordable place to call home, is about the fundamental idea that regardless of your life circumstance, you deserve that safe and affordable place to call home. Yesterday, I was with Mayor Chow, as I mentioned, in another part of the city, and we talked about the rental construction financing initiative and $1.2 billion that is being directed into that initiative to spur on the construction of more and more rental housing. It's critical that we are all focused on this goal as one. And what I would say is that we will not achieve success were it not for cooperation at different levels of government. So on that note, I want to turn to a strong housing advocate, again, a person who I've gotten to know as the representative of this community because we share this community in terms of the constituents we both constantly advocate for, and that is the local city councillor here, Councilor Gord Perks from the City of Toronto. Over to you, Gord.
Your colleagues in the House of Commons have already put forward, which is for a ceasefire in the Gaza. I can't imagine at this stage how there could possibly be an excuse not to stand for that. And I'll just finish by saying the minister, the Prime Minister, has already declared that he's calling on Israel for maximum restraint. What could maximum restraint when more than 11,000 people have now died, almost 5,000 children, be if not an immediate ceasefire? So I will ask you, sir, can you possibly see your way to join your 23 colleagues in the House of Commons and come out in support of a full-throated support for a ceasefire now? Thank you very much. And I do apologize to the board and to Olivia.
Thank you, David. This is Parkdale. Thank you very much for that, David. There will be a question and answer after. So, like I said, there will be a question and answer, okay? Fair point? Okay. So, first of all, welcome to Parkdale, where you have an announcement about housing and a dozen members of the community show up and ask you to do more for human rights here and around the world. This is just the neighborhood. This is our neighborhood. So, I like to think of this site as a turning point. 9 years ago, the province of Ontario decided to close a liquor store here. And the city of a member of the community, Paul Bruce, called my office and said, "Did you see that for sale sign?" It took 5 years to convince the province of Ontario to sell it to the city of Toronto. 5 years. It then took 4 years through multiple applications to different programs at the federal level to get the funding. But we're here today in a very different environment, a very, very different environment. Just weeks ago, Mayor Chow announced that the City of Toronto is ready to start building. We announced that we would be building affordable housing, leading that construction, and invited the federal and provincial governments to come forward as partners in that work. And here we are, just a couple of weeks later, on this site, ready to make 40 lives better. Everyone knows that if you are struggling in a community with mental illness, with addiction, if you're fleeing violence somewhere else in the world or from your home, getting a home is the first step to putting your life on a sound footing. So, I hope today begins a process where, as the mayor has described, we start building in 9 months, not in 9 years, where our federal and provincial partners come forward and say, yes, the land is available, the money is available. We know you, the city, our good builders are ready to go, and that's been Mayor Chow's invitation to the other orders of government. I know that it's an invitation that everyone in Parkdale would extend. Ours is a community, when we go to build housing, people come out to celebrate housing. So, Minister Varani, thank you so much for being a partner on this. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Mayor of Toronto, Olivia Chow.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. 40 people getting hope, saying that finally I have a home. I have a shelter over my head. I don't have to be running from one place to another, freezing, feeling the violence, and not having a future. To have a home means you can start to heal, that you can start to dream of a better life. That is what it means to have a home. And we all have darkness or demons in the back, sometimes that crops up from time to time. We know that. And we know without a shelter, without a home, a permanent home, there is just no way to get out of that downward spiral. So 40 people in this spot will find hope and find a home. But you know, it took too long. Why does it take 5 years to buy a building, a spot? Why does it take so many years to get the funding? It shouldn't be that way. The federal government has the Rapid Housing Initiative. It has the Housing Accelerator Funds. Acceleration, rapidly, that means fast in my books. So let us work together. Unlock the funding. Yes, yesterday we had the low-cost borrowing cost. Great. You can borrow the money with lower interest rate rather than 6 or 7% these days. Lower cost borrowing is great, but you still need the grant. You still need the money to actually do the building. Everything take a down payment. Park would know. You've done the MNU building. I know all the things that parks have done. And you need that down payment, because just borrowing won't do it. You need the down payment. Where are you going to find the down payment? Well, you know what? It's this government that can step up. So the city is stepping up to get the land. We have land. We're ready. We have very long, good working relationships with many organizations. Some of them are here right now. And we will be picking an operator to manage this site. We just need the federal and the provincial government to unlock the fund and say, yes, we're ready to do it. And we want to thank you, Minister, for doing that and showing what rapid means. This one, yes, on. The Rapid Housing Initiative is perfect. It's fast, and it's immediate, and it works under supportive housing. So I hope there's round 4 of the Rapid Housing Initiative. Maybe we can hear that next week, next Tuesday. The economic statement is next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, we're looking for operating funds, grants. We're looking for funds to purchase existing building, to give it and partner with Parkdale Land Trust so that they can turn existing buildings that are falling apart, renovate it, but not evict the people, so that those tenants have permanent homes. So acquisition funds, grants, borrowing cost, and housing benefits, because a bit of housing benefits, which is rent supplement, is immediate. So we are just grateful. We're hoping to see those 4 elements in the economic statement next week. And we'll see the funds in the budget coming up next year. I am full of hope today. The sun is shining. The stars are aligning. And we sure hope the 27,000 people that are on wait list for supportive housing and the 85,000 people that are waiting for rent gear to income supplement, they are not just numbers. They are human lives. They are children. They are seniors And there are people that just need a little bit of support, and they would find their home. So thank you, Minister. Let's continue our partnership and our collaboration with all the organizations that are here today. And I just can't contain my smile. Let's have a lot more good news, a lot of homes to give people hope. Thank you.
That's Mayor Olivia Chow, joined by the Attorney General of Canada, Arif Irani, as well as Councilor Gord Perks at 11 Brock, just right in the heart of Parkdale, right by Queen and Dufferin. It's going to be the site of 40 units of rent-geared-to-income housing. This is all part of the Rapid Housing Initiative, a partnership with the federal government and the City of Toronto. The government pitching in $21 million of capital investments, and the city bringing in around $3.4 million worth of incentives, so waiving certain fees and tax exemptions.